Today on r/PettyRevenge. My boss fired me, so I took his master's and PhD title. I had a rich boss once that was only rich because of the wealth from his grandparents. The guy was a complete and utter moron. He made nonsensical financial decisions and burned through hundreds of thousands of dollars in completely avoidable mistakes. But because he had money from his ancestors, he just shrugged of these losses and continued. He had also only but the faintest idea about his company or how to lead or keep employees. I was basically keeping the company together. As such, I was the naysayer that blocked 90% of his stupid plans and decisions. Due to my negativity, I was fired. The guy was also arrogant as heck because he had a master's and PhD in economics. Though no way in heck can this guy have a master's PhD, he's so dang stupid. So I searched for his master's and PhD thesis, went to the university library, and what a surprise, on the second page of his master thesis found a text passage without citation. After like 40 minutes I found another 10 passages he copied without citation. I spent only some 20 minutes examining his PhD thesis and found already 2 cases. I made pictures of the text passages he copied and the books from where he took them and wrote an anonymous email to the university. A year later he lost both his master's and PhD because of his plagiarism. I know this from people that still work with him because he exploded. The university just thanked me but told me they can't provide further info due to data protection. So either he had a ghostwriter write it for him who didn't care, or he just copied and thought he would never be caught. He wrote both in the 80s. Chances are many master's and PhD theses from these times are plagiarized because there were less possibilities to check. After all, imagine it's 1985 and you are at the University of Chicago, and during a trip to Miami, you visit the library and write a thesis there. If you change the title, there is almost a 0 chance that you will ever be caught. So if you have stupid bosses or people around you with a degree that are older and did you wrong, it might be worth your time to check their thesis. For our next story. Someone has been trying to use my email address for years. I've had my email address since the early days of Gmail, and for the longest time there's someone out there who has been using it, trying, for all sorts of things. I've gotten gestation updates, financial aid notifications, volunteer schedules, job interview offers, and so many password reset attempts for other services. This person signed up for a streaming service. I changed the password and they auto-paid for 6 months before fixing it. I scheduled that job interview, then rescheduled it. Recently I got a payroll account set up email for a new job, I guess. I set up the account, later got the email that the email for the account had been changed. They signed up for a Starbucks account. I don't go to Starbucks. I got the happy birthday email from Starbucks yesterday. It's not my birthday. So now I'm drinking my free $9 macadamia something or other cold brew. I tell them directly to stop using my account, but I don't know their email address. I have made reasonable attempts to respond to personal emails telling people that I wasn't the person they were trying to reach, and even tried to pass along the message to please for the love of all that is good in the world to stop, and I gave up after about 5 years of trying. At one point, I also reached out to everyone on social media with the same name, and still, it continues. I have given up on trying, and I will continue changing the passwords to every account they create with my email address until they stop using it. I'm just glad I haven't gotten any more whiner pics in a few years. Let's dive into our next story. Coworker is territorial about her shared desk. I'll just make it worse. Our office is hybrid post-pandemic, and to cut down on costs we now have a shared desk situation. The only people with permanent desks are the higher-ups or people who come in full-time. My coworker, who shows up about 2 times a week, still treats her desk like her own personal desk even though our whole team is supposed to use it. She's a bit of a grump and never removed her personal items and pictures, even though we were asked to do so. 90% of the time we just leave her desk alone because it's too annoying to deal with her complaints, and our manager basically avoids dealing with her because she's such a headache. But there are times when there just isn't many open desks, so I have to sit at her desk and things get moved, of course. Nothing major, just the usual stuff with a shared desk. But of course she always complains and whines and tries to make us feel bad for using her desk. A few weeks ago it got to be too much. Someone else sat at her desk and adjusted a lot of things, and so she blew up at me. I told her I hadn't sat at her desk, but she just whined about all the times before. I was done. So for the last few weeks, whenever I go past her desk, I make sure to move something or unplug something. It's been pissing her off so much. The best moment came yesterday when she was freaking out because her laptop died mid-meeting. She's not great with technology and was freaking out. Of course she called IT, and when they came they simply pointed out that her power cord was loose. I wonder how that happened. Our IT guy has a way of talking which was perfect for the moment because he basically walked her through a step-by-step process of plugging in the cord while everyone else could hear. She basically looked like a moron for not knowing how to check if it was plugged in. I couldn't stop smiling. On to the next story. My date got chased out of a restaurant by a bunch of chefs. When I was in university, I went on a date with a guy I briefly met at the gym. Between meeting him at the gym and going on our first date, we didn't talk much as I'm not a texter, so I didn't know much about him prior. We went to my favorite Turkish restaurant, and outside of the gym he wasn't what I expected. He dressed very flamboyantly in a colorful Gucci head-to-toe tracksuit, which isn't my preference, but I wasn't going to write a guy off just because of his outfit. He stunk of weed and had clearly been smoking prior, which is another thing that I'm not fond of. For religious reasons, I don't smoke or drink, so it's a huge turnoff. He was very obnoxious through the whole date, and a lot more aggressive than he was at the gym. He asked me questions like, "What's your body count?" He wasn't well-mannered, he had poor articulation, and we didn't have the same interests or pretty much any similarities. Nevertheless, I'm an optimistic person, and while no way would I ever consider him romantically, I could still enjoy his company for the length of a diner until he started making comments about our waitress. He made a comment about her massive rack, and I was immediately repulsed. Especially when I saw her, she looked no older than 16, being generous. I was instantly grossed out and told him I was going to the bathroom when really I went to discreetly pay my half of the bill and leave. When I paid, the other waitress could tell it was a date gone wrong, and while I was paying, she asked if everything was okay because I looked visually uncomfortable. They had been eyeing our table because he was very clearly invading my personal space by sitting on my side of the booth, and they could see me coil away from him from time to time. I kept having to move his hand off my leg over and over, so it must have given them a bad vibe. I said I was fine, but he made an inappropriate comment about the younger waitress. She instantly started pressing me about what he said, and I was reluctant, so I kept it vague and just told her it was a rude comment about the girl's chest. Anyway, I went to the toilet to wait in there for my Uber so I could make my grand escape before I heard a bunch of yelling. 6 Turkish chefs were pushing him out of the restaurant, yelling at him. Apparently one of the chefs was the young waitress's uncle, and she was only 14. For our next story. Never splitting the check again. I've been with my husband nearly 6 years and married for almost 3. Our entire relationship, family birthday dinners with my in-laws have always been a mess. They never decide where to go or what time until the very last minute. Sometimes they even change the location or time of day, so even reservations can become useless because you need most of the party present. People are typically late, not 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes even an hour, and thus have others waiting to start eating. But the most painful part of these events has always been paying for the check at the end of the meal. Typically what would happen is everyone splits the check in whatever way so the birthday human doesn't have to pay for their meal. No one ever says, "Hey everyone, we're splitting the check evenly no matter what, or pay for yourself, and a little extra for the birthday person." Nothing, just left to figure it out at the end of the night. They'll offer to share, I think, in hopes that it makes it more attractive to share the bill. We were once asked to pay $60 each on an approximately $300 bill when all we ordered was 2 $15 meals and water, while everyone else went ham and bought whatever they wanted plus alcohol. When they asked what we were doing birthday dinner-wise for my husband and I, we picked a restaurant, and it was a great meal. My husband ordered a couple of appetizers to share with the table, which everyone partook in. When the bill came, my brother-in-law said, "Let's see how much we paid to, maybe you guys don't pay." I was flabbergasted. All of a sudden it was "we will see" and not automatic. We ended up paying our entire bill including apps and drinks. I was really upset because time and time we have paid more than our fair share, but when it was our turn no one was willing to follow tradition. When my sister-in-law's birthday dinner came along, we decided to only pay what we ordered and let them figure out the rest. My in-laws were not only ordering alcohol and meals but also a bottle of sparkling water, which I have never seen them do in the years I've known them. We took the tablet when we were done eating and chatting, paid for our meals plus tip, and left. I'm so glad we've decided that's how we will handle these dinners from now on. So much annoying stress removed. Our last story for today. A startup bro sent me a lot of hate mail, so I improved his product and sold it to his competitor. Now he's going out of business. I'm an academic researcher. I won this tech competition last year and started getting hate mail from a startup bro from my country who was probably just jealous because his team hadn't even made it to the finals of the same competition 3 years ago. Just my guess. He was now the CEO of a growing startup. The content of the hate mail was usually just insults mixed with explaining that I wasn't really good in my field and didn't deserve any acclaim. It hit the fan when he actually made the effort to attend a Zoom lecture of mine to hurl insults in the comments. That was embarrassing. I wanted revenge in a way that would prove my merit as well. I ordered his company's product, a special water filtration apparatus, and made some neat improvements to it which made it much cheaper. I found one of his close competitors who operates in the same region and gave the product to them in exchange for a payment and an advisory position. This was also a small company that was neck and neck with the dude who was harassing me. It's been 1 year and the competitor has almost fully dominated the market. I haven't announced my affiliation with the competitor yet, but I'm about to. I wish I can see his reaction live when he finds out I helped the competitor. And those are all the stories we have for today. See you tomorrow.